Hello everyone and welcome back to Milo Farms. Well, we picked up this free lawnmower here today that was in a trash pile, and we've got it back home and it doesn't seem to want to start. So we're going to go through and see what we can figure out here. We'll demonstrate right now, give it a couple of pulls. It does not want to start. So it feels like it's got compression, but nothing at all. I've already pulled it 15 or 20 times. So the first thing we're going to do is see if we can get it to pop off at all, so we can tell if maybe we're dealing with a ignition problem or a carburetor problem. So we'll pull the air filter off. I already cleaned that a little bit. And we're just going to put a few drops of fuel over here right directly into the carburetor. I suspect that what's going on, that's a little too much gas, but that's okay. I suspect what's going on probably, most likely, is a carburetor problem. The new fuel that I put in it, when I took that old fuel out, it smelled like it was pretty bad. See here? So you can see right there, the thing will run as long as we can get the fuel to it. So we're going to go ahead and take this carburetor part real quick and clean it out. First thing we're going to do on this particular model, it has a fuel shut off. So we'll shut that off, and then we'll get some wrenches for those two green headed bolts right there. So we took the air filter off, and we've got these two green headed bolts right here. We're going to go ahead and take them out and take the carburetor off. Looks like this might be metric possibly. So we got those two bolts loose. Pull this back and see what we're dealing with here. Looks like we've got some emission control stuff on here from the crankcase breather coming in there. And then we've got a gasket on the back right there. So we'll take that down. You can see this is our crankcase vent, goes in there and feeds into the carburetor. So we'll get that stuff out of the way. So here is the carburetor right here. To take this off, we're going to need to tip it sideways and work this little linkage out just like that. Sometimes you'll bend that little linkage a little bit, but just be careful. Then take that spring off. And then here's the fuel line right here. We might be able to just pull it off. It has a little keeper on it, but looks like it'll just pull off. There we go. So the first test, we're going to turn the fuel on, and we've got fuel flow, so that's good. So here's our carburetor. So I suspect what we're going to find, got our choke side here, and then we've got our throttle side over here. Everything's working right there, but I suspect what we're going to find is down here in the bowl. So I'll take this nut off. I suspect we're going to find this bowl all full of garbage. You can smell the old fuel on there. It smells pretty bad. There's the float. The float's not full of liquid. There's the needle right there. It's got some corrosion on it. There's the needle. Got some garbage on the face of it there. So we'll take this carburetor and we'll go wash this off with some carburetor cleaner to start with, and then we'll come back. Alright, so I just used some generic carb cleaner. Went ahead and stuck the nozzle in all the different holes. Everything tests out clear except for this main jet. I've been able to get a little bit of liquid through it, but I'm going to grab a screwdriver, a flat blade screwdriver, and try to take that out and clean the rest of that orifice out in there. I think it'll be okay right now, but I want to make sure I get it cleaned the rest of the way. So I sprayed a little carb cleaner in there. I'm going to let it soak and grab a flat blade screwdriver. So I was not able to get out that main jet that's down inside of there. It's true corroded in, and the screwdriver that I have will not get it out. So I got it cleaned out. It's passing fuel through it, no problem now. So we'll go ahead and try to put it back together and see how it runs. If that doesn't run still, we may end up having to get a different screwdriver and see if we can get that out of there. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and put the carburetor back together. First thing we're going to do is take the needle and slip it right in this crack in the seat right there. And then keeping the needle down on that side over the carburetor and dropping the needle down in the hole. So you're left like that. Then you've got your pin. Slide that through. Sometimes these work better going one way than the other. Looks like this one still has a little bit of corrosion on it. That's the problem. There it goes. Slide that through, and it shouldn't take much pressure to get that through. And so you can see there the needle moves up and down with the float. Then you've got your gas bowl. I already washed that out as well. Put that on. And then you've got your screw that goes in the bottom. So we'll put this back together and tighten it up. So there's that. Then we'll put the fuel line back on. Slip it back on there. Our spring goes in the close hole, and then the farther hole that's a little bit larger is where that linkage goes. If you ended up bending the linkage, make sure you get it straight again. And the carburetor will sit just like that. And then looking on the back side here, you've got this little channel that comes up, and you want to make sure that you get that lined up with the hole the way it was so you can get your air exchange there. So that's going to go like that, just like that. Then you can get your two bolts. In there on that gasket. So there's your bolts through the carburetor. And then you'll just stick them through, line them up in the holes, and get them in finger tight there. And everything will just line up. The only thing you've also got to do is hook up your crankcase vent right there. And that just pushes on. Feel everything going together there pretty easily. Don't want to over tighten these too much because they're just going into that aluminum block and all those plastic pieces and everything. So we'll go ahead and throw the air filter back on and see if it'll start. I already took this air filter and blew it out. It's all nice and clean now. Put that on. This piece here. And we've got our fuel. Turn that on. I've got brand new fuel in the tank there. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and try to start it. We've already got the fuel turned on over here. We've got brand new gas in the tank. We're going to go ahead and give it a pull. There you go. Works pretty good now. So that's just a real simple fix. That's something you might find in the springtime after you've been running the thing with ethanol fuel and stored it for the winter. That's a real common issue. That's why I always say to not use ethanol. One thing you can do to try to avoid that situation is on this particular model it has the fuel shut off, so you can shut that fuel off and then run the thing in the fall till it runs out of gas. But best of all, just recommend getting that non-ethanol fuel in there. So if you're not sure what kind of fuel you have and you're curious, you can pick up that ethanol tester that I have listed below in the description. Like I said, I always recommend that non-ethanol fuel. And then in the fall, you can drain the fuel out or run it out. Or what I usually do is just, in this case, turn the fuel off and it'll be good to go.